College football news is going to break down another choke job by Scott Frost, and an embarrassment, a horrible coaching performance, bad play calling. His team was completely unprepared, and they should have left him in Dublin, as this man needs to be fired. Let's take a look. You can see right off the bat here, Whipple and Nebraska attacks Northwestern's weaknesses right off the bat, going deep ball with Logan Smothers down to number 2 with a great catch over top of the defender. And then something else that's been going on with Nebraska over the last couple of years, they just can't control the snap. Another high snap, but a great recovery by the quarterback for Nebraska. He was able to corral it, settle his feet, settle his mind, and find an open receiver down the field that was kind of open, but yet it was a dangerous pass that could have been intercepted. Now, another complete breakdown by Nebraska, as they've had a horrible defense since Scott Frost has been there, and a wide receiver just runs straight down the seam up the field, and you can see nobody bumps him at the line. The linebacker's out of position, and there's no free safety over the top to help. He's way out of position, and they get an easy touchdown. Look at this. Nebraska, with no matter who their defensive coordinator is under Scott Frost, they just have a horrible defense. And again, Zielinski, right before the halftime, they let another guy in the slot, coming right out of the slot, number 80, come down the middle of the seam, and nobody's on them. Nobody's in the pass rush because they have an inability to get pressure on the quarterback, and that was the theme this game. And they take a lead going into halftime, 17-14, and Scott Frost's panties were tightening. His nipples were getting hard, and he was getting nervous that he was 3 seconds away from being fired. But yet again, Nebraska was able to come out of halftime with the great play by the quarterback, Logan, who was able to roll out, evade pressure, outrun the linemen, and fire a ball downfield on a broken play to a wide open receiver, number 2, that appears to be their best player at Nebraska. And they take an early 21-17 lead against Northwestern, and they look to be taking over the game on a big play by the quarterback because he's an athlete. But this was the only thing the quarterback did for Nebraska all second half, because the offensive play calling was horrible. They would only run the ball up the middle. They weren't using their speed. They weren't going to the outside of the field. And when they had a chance to take over the game, the horrible and worst coach in the Big Ten and one of the worst in the nation, Scott Frost, decides after they get a turnover, a critical turnover on the next possession, and then Northwestern has a defensive breakdown where the Nebraska running back, he lowers his shoulder to break one tackle, makes another guy miss, but those horrible angles and horrible defensive play by Northwestern, you can see right here where he lowers his shoulder and breaks a tackle on an arm tackle, and they take a commanding second time in the game, an 11-point lead, 28-17. And then for some ungodly reason and an atrocious call that only Scott Frost could make, because he thinks he's still at Central Florida when he's at allegedly a powerhouse big-time program, he's coaching like he's at a mid-major conference, gets a turnover, and then again Northwestern capitalizes and gets an immediate touchdown, and then they go down the stretch and they run the ball you heard that right, 18 straight times, right up the middle against Nebraska on their last 2 possessions. One ends up in a touchdown here to take the lead, and then you can see their quarterback, Logan, who had a horrible second half, throws a 100-mile-an-hour fastball to a wide receiver that's no more than 10 yards down the field, and you can see it right here. It's well behind him on his back shoulder. 85 still should have caught it, but it's a dangerous play, a horrible pass, and this is what happens to teams that choke, teams that have a coach that don't know what he's doing, should be fired, doesn't have the credentials to be there, but yet Nebraska refuses to let this man go. We're going to continue to give you breaking college football highlights and updates.